Welcome to the third part of the lesson, dear children of class 8. As we have learned earlier that the writer found a roll top desk and found a letter in the secret drawer, he opened the letter. And what did he read in the letter? This is what the letter says. Dearest Connie, I write to you in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has happened that I must tell you about at once. We were all standing to in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning. It was crisp and quiet all about, as beautiful a morning as I've ever seen, as cold and frosty as a Christmas morning should be. The other letter is addressed to Connie. It seems Connie is Mrs. Jim McPherson. And Jim McPherson is writing to Connie. And what's he writing? He says, I'm writing to you in a much happier frame of mind. He says, I'm very, very happy now. And I thought I must write to you at once because something wonderful has happened. What has happened? Now he starts to tell his wife in his letter. He says, we were all standing to in our trenches yesterday morning. They were all ready for the war and it was very quiet. Says it was, what day it was? What day was it? It was Christmas Day, that is the 25th of December. They were standing in the trenches. You know what trenches are, students? Trenches are the deep furrows that people dig out in the ground, especially soldiers. They would keep themselves safe in those trenches, and they would then fight from those trenches. And those trenches are like long, dug, almost like canal-like places. Of course, they are very deep, and soldiers would take refuge in that and keep themselves safe there while fighting. And so he says, we were standing in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning, that is 25th of December. It was crisp and quiet all about. Crisp here means very fresh. The morning was very fresh and it was very quiet. It seemed they were not fighting on Christmas Day. It was World War One, and so it was a Christmas Day and it was a beautiful morning as I've ever seen, he says. It was a beautiful morning, as cold and frosty as a Christmas morning should be. Christmas time is a cold time of the year. And so he says it was a frosty morning. Frosty means quite cold and quite icy there. And so he says it was very cold morning. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it. But the truth, I am ashamed to say, is that Fritz began it. Here he says, he's telling his wife, he's ashamed to say that we did not begin it. Something happened. And he's ashamed that we should have done it. But he says, we, the Britishers, we didn't do it. And who did it? The Fritz. During those times, children, the Fritz were the Germans. And the Germans called the British soldiers Tommies. And so they say the Fritz. He's calling the Fritz are the Germans here. And they began it. What happened that morning on Christmas Day? First, someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. Then they were calling out to us from across no man's land. Happy Christmas, Tommy! Happy Christmas! When we had got out over the surprise, some of us shouted back, same to you, Fritz, same to you. I thought that it would be that. We all did. Now what happened here? From the trenches opposite, what did they see? There was a white flag. Somebody was waving a white flag. What does the white flag stand for? A white flag stands for peace or truce. Means at that moment they are not fighting. And so remember it is World War One, and they're calling, and when there's somebody waving a white flag means they're not supposed to shoot. And so then they were calling out to us from across no man's land. What's a no man's land? Children, there's a place between two countries that doesn't belong to any country. So it's a no man's land. So there, on no man's land, from across them, the enemy, they were waving, the enemies were waving a white flag, and what did they shout from across the no man's land. Happy Christmas, Tommy. Happy Christmas. Tommy is here, as I told you earlier. Tommies are the British soldiers, and they were wishing them, the enemies are wishing them Happy Christmas. Can you imagine that? Now the writer here again says, Jim says, Jim who's writing to his wife in the letter, he says, when we had got over the surprise, when they were in the beginning, they were shocked, they were surprised. How can enemies wish us Happy Christmas? And so then some of us, he says, means some of the British soldiers, they shouted back, same to you, Fritz, same to you. So they wished them back, same to you. And Jim here says, I thought that would be that. Means, well, that is the end of wishing. That is the end of, that is as far as they will go. They all thought, we all did, means they all thought that this is the end of us wishing each other Christmas. But then, suddenly, one of them was up there in his grey greatcoat and waving a white flag. Don't shoot, lads, someone shouted, and no one did. Then there was another Fritz up on the parapet, and another. Keep your heads down, I told the men. It's a trick. But it wasn't. Then suddenly one of them, who's one of them? The enemy is one of them. They wore grey. Students, the German army, the soldiers, they wore big coats. They were great coats. Remember, it was December and it was very, very cold there, and they were wearing great coats, that big coats. And then they were waving a white flag. He said, don't shoot, lads. Someone shouted, don't shoot, don't shoot. And no one did. So no one did. Who are they? The British soldiers. They did not shoot. Then there was another Fritz up. Then another German soldier came up on the parapet. A parapet is there, a wall kind of a place they got out of the trench and they came out on the wall kind of a place where they are supposed to take shelter. Then another came up. Keep your heads down, I told the men. He's supposed to be the leader of the British soldiers. And he says, it's a trick. He says, he's suspicious. Jim is suspicious of them. He says, it's a trick. They want to lure us out of our trenches. Then they are going to shoot us. But it wasn't a trick. Well, that is the end of our lesson today, students. We will go on to the lesson the next day, on your next English class day, and please do the exercises, the questions that I am giving you here now. Thank you.